I've been releasing music for a long time, and there's one thing that I hear constantly from indie artists, which is this quiet fear that their music could just disappear from Spotify and Apple Music one day with no warning and no way to even fight it. I've lived through that, and I'll tell you that story in just a moment. But first, I want to explain why I'm making this video. Over the past year, a lot of you have asked me to look into Ditto Music, and not because it's the biggest name out there, it's because it's the one that actually nobody seems to talk about. You know, everyone covers DistroKid, CD Baby, TuneCore, the usual suspects, and Ditto kind of gets left out of the conversation. And many of you wanted someone to actually dig into it, and so I did. And what I found surprised me. Now, as viewers had been asking me to research Ditto, a rep from Ditto actually reached out and asked if I would make this comparison video. Full disclosure, yes, they are compensating me for this effort, but the timing lined up with what many of you had already been asking for. And what mattered the most to me was that the people at Ditto actually wanted an honest evaluation. They were confident enough in their platform that they encouraged a real unbiased look instead of a polished sales pitch. And that gave me the freedom to approach this with total honesty and fairness and balance. And I want you to hold me accountable to that. This video is not about hype and it's not about taking sides. It's just about giving you the real story so that you can make the right choice for your own music. If you're new to releasing music, here's a simplified version for you. A distributor just takes your song and they deliver it to Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, TikTok, Instagram, and all the different places that people listen to music. CD Baby and Ditto Music both do this, and they both get your music to where it needs to go, but they work very differently, and those differences matter more than most artists realize. And before we compare anything, I actually want to share something that shaped the way that I look at distributors. A couple of years ago, I had a large catalog with CD Baby, which was my own music and my clients' music, and then one day, without any warning, one of my clients had some of their music pulled from Spotify. There was no explanation, there was no calls, nothing. And I reached out to CD Baby support several times. I wasn't angry, I just needed guidance, I just needed to know what happened and really how to fix it. And of course, they never responded. Not once, and even today, a couple years later, I've still never heard back on this issue. That experience changed everything for me. I pulled my entire catalog and moved to DistroKid at the time. I've released around 100 songs since then, but if I had known more about Ditto Music at the time, I might have gone there instead. That's why this comparison matters. Support isn't a small detail. It's the difference between your music being online or gone. Now, to be completely transparent, my experience with Ditto's support is still very limited. I haven't had to lean on them the same way that I did with CD Baby a couple of years ago. So instead of pretending that I know more about them than I actually do, I looked at what other artists are saying across different platforms like Trustpilot and Reddit's music communities and independent creator reviews. And there's a clear pattern. CD Baby gets a lot of criticism for slow or unresponsive support, and on Trustpilot, many of the low-rated reviews mention long delays or not even any replies at all. And Reddit threads like We Are the Music Makers and Music Business say the same thing, Support used to be better years ago, but now it's common to wait weeks or even months to even get a reply, if that. That lines up with my own experience of not hearing back from them at all. Ditto's feedback is a bit more mixed, but it's noticeably different. Their Trustpilot reviews lean more toward positive, and when people do complain, it's usually about a specific issue like payment delays or confusion around chart registration and not total silence. On Reddit, the sentiment is that Ditto may not be perfect, but they generally respond within a few days, and there are far fewer reports of being ignored entirely. So while no distributor gets everything right, the broad consensus is that Ditto communicates far more consistently than CD Baby does. And when you're dealing with something as important as your music being online, communication matters. So based on customer support and responsiveness, in my opinion, Ditto is the winner here. Now, both companies deliver your music to the major platforms that most artists care about: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, TikTok, Instagram, and a long list of others. There are small differences in the store lists and they can change over time, but for most indie artists, the practical reach is really very similar. And I'm going to say the real decision isn't usually about where your music can go. It's more about how you get it there and what the experience feels like once you're in the system. Remember that fear that I mentioned in the beginning? That fear that your music could disappear from Spotify without warning? Well, that fear is real, and I've lived it. And a lot of you have told me that you worry about that too. And to keep this comparison fair, there's something important to understand. Ditto uses a subscription model, which means that you do have to renew each year to keep your music live. CD Baby's one-time fee model avoids that specific risk because once you've paid for a release, it stays up even if you stop paying for them in the future. If CD Baby goes out of business one day or changes their model, then who knows? It doesn't change my overall conclusion, but it's a real difference that matters to some artists. As people started asking me to look into Ditto over the last year, the tone was mostly kind of curiosity. A lot of you felt like Ditto was being overlooked, or some of you said things like, I never hear you talk about Ditto, and can someone please compare Ditto to the bigger distributors? And almost every time somebody brought it up, CD Baby was the company being mentioned alongside of it. CD Baby has been around forever, right? A lot of indie artists have used it or heard of it, and it's the distributor that indie artists measure everything else against. So it made sense to me to compare Ditto to the platform that most of you already know about. Since I already touched on customer support, I'd say pricing and royalties matter the most for indie artists, and the difference becomes clear when you look at real-world release habits. Let me walk you through two common scenarios with the correct current pricing structure for CD Baby and Ditto music. Here's scenario number one. An artist releases a single every single month and averages around 5,000 monthly streams. That's about 60,000 streams every year, which usually would pay somewhere from $240 to $300. With CD Baby, you're paying per release. So 12 singles at $9.99 each comes to about $120. And CD Baby also takes 9% of your streaming royalties, which that's going to be another $21 to $27. So in total, you're spending anywhere from, say, $141 to $147 a year just to keep your music distributed. With Ditto, it's one flat annual fee of $19, and they don't take a cut of your streaming royalties. So in this scenario, Ditto music would cost you $19, and CD Baby is going to cost you roughly 7 times more. What about scenario number two? An artist releases, say, one album every year plus 3 singles, and that same 5,000 monthly streams, just to keep it easy. CD Baby charges per album instead of per track, so the number of songs doesn't change the fee there. Now, their standard album distribution cost is $14.99, and 3 singles would be $9.99 each, which is another $29.97. So then you add a 9% royalty cut, which is the same $21.60 to $27. Your total with CD Baby ends up between $66 and $72 ballpark for the same year. And with Ditto, it's still just $19. So whether you release one song or 20, the price doesn't change and you keep all of your royalties. Now, an important note for fairness, CD Baby's pricing is a one-time fee per release. So if you stop releasing music, you don't pay again. And Ditto is an annual subscription, like I said, which means you renew each year to keep your catalog live. In both scenarios, if you're releasing regularly or building a catalog, Ditto gives you significantly better return. CD Baby only becomes cost-effective if you release rarely. Let's talk about the website and the user experience next, because this is where I was genuinely surprised. Ditto's website feels clean and personal and simple and comfortable. I mean, I uploaded a song as a first-time user without any friction. The interface didn't fight me and it didn't bury me in menus. It felt like something a beginner could use without feeling overwhelmed. CD Baby's upload process is a bit more detailed, but still not too hard to navigate. There were a few more steps, and it was a bit more technical, and some artists like that higher level of control, and others just want to get their music out without feeling like they're filling out paperwork, right? Ditto is faster and simpler. Still, on this one I can't really call a winner because different artists are looking for different things in the upload process. So I would just say, if you're newer to music distribution, and in my opinion, Ditto definitely has an edge. Both platforms give you ways to promote and understand your releases, but they don't do it the same way. Ditto includes things like smart links, pre-saves, and analytics directly inside of their dashboard. It feels integrated and modern, and you can set up a release and create a pre-save and share a smart link and see how it's performing without jumping between different sites. With CD Baby, you can still get smart links and pre-saves, but they're handled through show.co, which is a separate platform that they do own. And it works, but it means that your tools and your data are split between 2 different websites, CD Baby and show.co, instead of all living in one space together. CD Baby's analytics are just a bit more basic, and the deeper campaign data lives over at show.co. Honestly, CD Baby is just a little bit more clunky with these features, and on top of that, Ditto includes automated royalty splits, so you can assign percentages to collaborators and have payouts handled for you. CD Baby doesn't offer built-in splits for streaming royalties, so if you work with producers, co-writers, or featured artists, then you're going to have to manage those payments yourself. And if you collaborate a lot, or if you like to have everything under one roof, for example, these differences start to matter. Now, if you're just getting started and you're doing everything yourself, then you still need to think ahead, because there is going to come a time where you do start working with a lot of other people. And having easy splits is actually super important. So based on these features alone, to me, Ditto is the best choice. Now, I want to be clear about something. CD Baby used to be the best option for artists who needed physical distribution, things like CDs, vinyl, warehousing, fulfillment. And that used to be one of their biggest strengths. I used them for that a long time ago. But that's no longer the case. CD Baby has discontinued physical distribution, and now they just focus more on things like sync licensing and publishing add-ons through CD Baby Pro, which costs more. And for digital-first artists, which is most of us today, I think that shift actually strengthens Ditto's position, because Ditto's been built around unlimited digital releases and predictable pricing and integrated tools and full royalties. So it's designed for the way that modern indie artists release music. And to me, it kind of feels like CD Baby was living in the past for too long, and now they're trying to figure out, how do we get caught up? Now, CD Baby still has its place. And like I said, if you release very rarely, or if you're already deeply set up in their ecosystem, it could still make sense for you. But for most artists that are watching this, especially if you're releasing consistently, and especially if you value strong customer support and good features, then Ditto to me seems like the better long-term fit. And if you want to explore Ditto for yourself, I put a link in the description for you. Also, now that I'm using Ditto myself, if you drop questions in the comments, I can actually give you really good answers. More than anything, I hope this video gave you clarity, and I hope it helped you understand your options. And I hope it gave you the confidence to choose the distributor that fits your goals the best. I'm Kevin from Innovaniac Music, where we help artists produce amazing music and build their audience. And until the next video, dream big and create boldly.
100 miles per hour on that see-through. All I ever had is to be true. More like Swiss cheese when I approach these words. They got holes in them, so deep you can fill them up and swim in them. Not advisable, I would try it though. Walk with a cane on a rainy day. Big teeth out, that's a smiley face. Lights on, lights off, I'ma make it happen. Wax on.